everyone. This is Jamie with Harper Therapy, and I am here with Tony. And we are doing the series on journey as we journey through seasons of life and getting to know ourselves better and transitioning. And Tony's done an excellent job with the blogs this month. And today we're going to be talking about boundaries. Boundaries.
I think my last blog talked about boundaries because it always comes back to boundaries. Do you have that too? Like clients come in and you're talking and you're like, oh yeah, it's boundaries. Client comes in next week, you're like, it's still boundaries.
Oh, and it's universal that it can be work, it can be relationship, your relationship with yourself, with things, with food, with time, with sleep. It applies across the board.
Yeah, it's just boundaries are the foundation for you, for just setting things up, and it's to protect you, it's to help you. They're beneficial in so many ways. And that's so the first week we talked about values, the second week we talked about emotions. So now the boundaries we're going to put in to protect those things once you're figuring out what you need. And last week we were talking about the emotions that come up, and I gave the example of my daughter and her wanting to play outside and me freaking out because it's what I do. But then telling her, well, no, I've had a long day. Let me relax, and being able to teach her that, but being able to show her that boundary of, hey, it's okay to want to go outside, and I need 20 minutes to take a break before we do that. You know, because setting up those boundaries is going to help people know how to be your friend, know how to be your spouse, all of it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that resistance to boundaries is frequently found from people pleasing. When we are resistant to boundaries, it's usually because we are more cognizant of what we perceive someone else to need than what our actual needs are. And so a lot of the time, if we find that internal resistance, it's an emphasis on possibly people pleasing rather than self-care, because boundaries are so much have to do with our self-care as well.
And people find such a hard time to do that and think self-care, again, it's like a dirty word. You know, especially like parents, I think, have it really rough where you're not supposed to take self-care. Well, what is that? And that's not, I don't think that's accurate. And boundaries aren't about controlling the people around you. It's about controlling yourself.
A visual came to me because there was a study done, and it was years ago, but it was children in a schoolyard, and they removed the fencing, and they let the 20 kids go out in the yard, and they thought, we'll see how they respond. Are they just going to go crazy? And they actually congregated in the middle of the yard and didn't play. And then they had a fence put up around the perimeter of the schoolyard, and those kids ran the entire perimeter of that schoolyard and had a blast. But that's kind of like boundaries in our life. It's like we have the guidelines, and we're totally free within those guidelines, but we know where we begin and where we end, where our boundaries are. And when we communicate those within relationships, it's the same thing, like setting expectations and things like that. But I love that visual because like boundaries can kind of be a negative word to some people. But
I honestly don't really like that word. You have to use it all the time. And I don't like it. I'm like, oh, the boundaries. Yeah, like it can, people. And because I think people who don't like boundaries, not only is the people pleasing, but it's people who don't have any boundaries and they don't know what they are. So when you try to say, hey, this is what I'm gonna need to do for me, they don't like it because they have no idea what that's about.
Sure.
And I love your example because it just shows that when you took that boundary away, the kids weren't having fun.
No, they weren't really sure where things started and stopped.
Right.
And they didn't really know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like that's such a great way to, like, that's life. Like, you know, I am, and I'll be honest, I'm fairly new to setting these boundaries and being able to say, hey, I'm going to take some time for myself, and this is what that's going to look like. And it has made a world of difference. I mean, you know, I enjoy working out in the morning. And I used to always like let my kids come up and stay with me while I was working out. And, you know, it was very cute. And sometimes then they would talk to me and they would ruin my work. Well, I won't say ruin. they would interrupt my workout and then getting back into it and then being worried what they're going to do. Are they going to hurt themselves? Are they going to get in the way? And I did one time hit my daughter in the face with a weight. It was a total accident. But like I was lifting a weight and she came up right next to me. Poor little thing. Had a little bruise on it. Yeah, I had to explain to the daycare, do that whole thing. So I have now said like they can come up the last few minutes of my workout because I think it's healthy for them to see me doing that. But in order for me to truly get the benefits out of that workout, I want to be by myself. And it has helped so much because I'm truly getting all those benefits of that workout. And then I'm not ready to kill them before 7 o'clock because they are just with me all morning.
Yeah, and I think I show up better when I have taken the time to address, whether it be rest or eating a decent meal or taking time for exercise or just to be. My tank is better filled for me to show up for those I love.
Absolutely. So if boundaries are something that you have questions about, if you know you need the fence in your yard and you just don't know how to put it up, give us a call. 813-434-3639. Bye, guys.
Bye.